Hi, I'm Emily Hamner, and welcome to my LTEC 5200 project, Uses of Wearable Technology. So our first page starts off with the promise of wearables from a professor who researches and designs various electronic textiles. We're defining the scope of the project, why it's important, largely that there are so many uses for wearables as well as so much data collected from them, and what we can be using wearable technology for as we move forward. The target audience is really anyone who finds themselves with a wearable device. In this case, we're usually talking about smartwatches or anything that has Bluetooth or Wi-Fi enabled to connect back to a computer or their cell phones. Our types of wearable tech that we discuss here, we're defining smart clothing, smart watches, and neurogrid. We list the pros and cons of each, as well as giving some of the best smartwatches on the market and how smart sensors can be brought into clothing. Our uses of wearable tech. Our first page here discusses the uses of wearable tech that we'll go into. I share some of my personal stories, like using a Fitbit that has heart rate tracking to also be an emotional and mental health tracker. I can see when in the day my heart rate peaks, if I'm having stress or anxiety, because a lot of times your body will register that before you are really aware of what's going on. And so I could figure out how am I going to prepare myself for those situations and what can I do if they're avoidable. The other thing that we cover here are future sections. So as research progresses, where do we want to add? Where do we want to continue reading in this? The one that I found very interesting was how wearable technology could change the future of disaster relief. My family, lives in Houston, and so almost all of them were touched by Hurricane Harvey this year. They have been impacted by a number of hurricanes in the past: Katrina, Edward, Ike, all of them losing power, trees, homes flooding, that sort of thing. And so with Hurricane Harvey, we saw how social media really had an impact in disaster relief efforts. And so I can only wait with bated breath to see where research goes with wearable technology and disaster relief, as well as response. So our first section is healthcare monitoring. We have a video with some nice infographics talking about how wearable technology can be used in preventative healthcare. We cover a little bit more of those preventatives under patient habits, giving a more robust patient history, how we could use this for some emotional monitoring, used in the rehabilitation process, and then monitoring feedback on chronic conditions. All things that would greatly benefit both providers and patients. Early detection would also be a use for this wearable technology. Google Glass was one that I hadn't seen before. We touch on it here briefly, not going into too much depth as there's not much information or much more research discussing Google Glass, as it hasn't taken off like we anticipated. And then some of the concerns with wearable technology in healthcare, largely HIPAA laws and security, how those wearables are going to transmit data and store data in a way that is protective of the patients and fully secure. Fitness tracking. Activity tracking is one that most of us are very familiar with. Fitbits are one of the first pieces of wearable technology that is widely accessible to consumers. The price points are really low and very entry level to very complex. You can spend almost as much as you want on a Fitbit these days. The other part that comes into this is self-regulation. So those fitness trackers often come with home pages, communities, challenges. And so people that often have a hard time sticking with a goal or needing a group to work out with can access those communities as they feel necessary to help support them on their goals. And our last section here is resources. All of our readings for this project are listed, as well as where to find each of those media sites. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.